So let's bounce into the NFL season preview, looking at overvalued teams for the NFL this season. And this was honestly a bit of a more difficult list than I thought it was going to be. So let's work through it. At number 5, I have the LA Rams. I just think when you look at losing Aaron Donald, relying on the health of Matthew Stafford, who is getting up there, of Cooper Kupp, who is getting up there and has been injured before, when you're relying on young players to, in Puka Nakua's case, keep up record paces, and Kyron Williams to keep up a breakout year from a year before. I just feel like when you are looking at a team at 8.5 wins, you are looking at best case scenario from this for this season. And so that's why I think that the LA Rams are one of the more overvalued teams in the NFL this season. Coming in at number 4, it is the Chicago Bears at 9.5 wins. I think this is a wildly improved team from a season ago. I think that they have really, well, maybe I shouldn't even say that they have added in the passing game quite a bit. They are looking to improve on the defense for sure, and I do think that they started to do that a little bit last year. But I also think that this was a team, like their big move obviously is Caleb Williams over Justin Fields. I don't think Justin Fields played all that bad last year, and they still only got to 7 wins. And so I think that there is maybe a little bit more improvement being assumed than at the quarterback spot than is actually realistic. And so I think Caleb Williams could have a great season, and you could feel really good about things, and this team could still go 7-10. But it'll still feel like a step in the right direction out in Chicago. At working our way up in the 3 spot, we have the New York Jets. Again, my entire basis on this is I don't think Aaron Rodgers is that good. And I get they did not have good quarterback play last year, but I thought Aaron Rodgers was kind of more on the cooked side going into last year anyway. And so now coming off of a very debilitating injury and trying to get everything sorted around that, and a year older and everything like that, I just don't see it. And I understand the rest of this roster is really good. I just don't see that that this Jets team is going to take that step here this year. I'm more out on the coach than I thought I was going to be. And I'm way more out on Aaron Rodgers than I think everyone else is. So that's why I think this team still goes under this number. Sticking in that division, sorry. Sticking in that division, the Buffalo Bills, as they come in at 10.5. You look at the injury that they have to Milano on that defense. They obviously lose Stephon Diggs and don't replace him with anyone. Sean McDermott, it felt like he kind of lost that team last year anyway, and like with the leaks about the 9/11 stuff and all of that. And so I just feel like it is all kind of compounding for this to be a down year for the Buffalo Bills. Maybe even still a playoff team. Like we hit this one if they get 10 and go 10-7 and make the playoffs. That could still win this division. But I just feel like it's just like hit after hit after hit after hit piling up on this Buffalo Bills team. And then the most overvalued team, I think, the San Francisco 49ers. They got everything going their way last year. And now you look at the Brandon Ayuk situation, which looks like it's going to carry over into the regular season. You have like just a ton of injury luck last year, and now Christian McCaffrey is feeling a little bit banged up. Ow. All right. Well, apparently she disagrees with my San Francisco 49ers one. For those of you who don't know, my cat started to slip there. For those of you listening, sorry, my cat started to slip there and then panicked and nipped my face. Anyway, the San Francisco 49ers coming in as my most overvalued team. I just like the Christian McCaffrey thing, hamstring issue here in training camp. I feel like is a big concern, and I just feel like this is another one where everything went right last year. Super Bowl hangovers are a thing, and I think they're going to take a step back for this upcoming season. So those are my overvalued teams. What about the overvalued players? Let's take a look from a fantasy football standpoint. These are the most, in my opinion, most overvalued players here in fantasy. At number 5, Malik Neighbors at 46th overall, wide receiver 23. I think that this is a very talented player. He is a rookie. And I think all of the look, he's the only guy in this offense is going to, I think, hinder him. Because I think a lot of teams very quickly are going to realize, like, oh, he's the only one we have to defend, and Daniel Jones is throwing him the football. And so I just I don't know how much is going to be there in way of opportunities. You can tell my cat jumped back up on the desk now, can't you? For those watching, I think I just don't think there's going to be that many prime opportunities for him to really have a big season. So he is my fifth most overvalued player. At 4, it's Stephon Diggs. He has right now, according to Fantasy Pros, 38th overall and wide receiver 19. I think he's the very clear number 3 receiver on the Houston Texans. And yes, this is a explosive offense, or it was a season ago. But this is also a offense with 2 guys who CJ Stroud feels very comfortable with in Tank Dell and Nico Collins. And you now have Joe Mixon, who I think can be effective out of the backfield. And if not him, Dameon Pierce, who can still do something out of that backfield. You also have Dalton Schultz there as a tight end. Like I feel like you have a lot of weapons that Stroud is already comfortable with. Not that Diggs is going to have like a 200-yard season or anything like that, but I don't know, like to have it 38th overall. So that's what we're going in around the 4th round right now. Way too high. Like wide receiver 2, I guess it's all right. Like wide receiver 19, so he is going as a wide receiver 2 fringe flex. So maybe overvalued is a bit of an overstatement, but I feel like this is a guy who should be way further back in drafts right now than he is. At 3, it's Rachaad White, 32nd overall, RB13. I think a lot of people are very excited that he is one of the few backs in the league that just has the backfield on lockdown and feels comfortable being able to just roll with that. I don't think he's very good. I think this offense might take a bit of a step back this season from what they were a year ago. And I think that you're going to see like, oh, well, who else is going to be back there? Well, we've said that about a lot of guys. And then all of a sudden, Devin Singletary is getting 10 touches a game. And we're wondering what the fuck's going on. I don't know who the other one is in Tampa Bay, but I just don't think that Rachaad White is all that good. And so because of that, I think that his opportunities will be a bit more limited this season. Coming in at number 2, I have Marvin Harrison Jr., 16th overall, wide receiver 9. I'm going to have a couple real good running backs if I'm taking him as my number 1. And I think he's incredibly talented. I think he is like cornerstone of the franchise. 3 years from now, we're talking about him as the best receiver in football. But he hasn't played it down yet. And we're talking like 16th overall. So middle part of the 2nd round, wide receiver 9. So odds are he's your wide receiver 1. For a guy who like I think very highly of Kyler Murray. And he's going to come up on some of these fantasy previews a little bit later on for sure. Not the most sturdy fellow always, right? So I worry that with this ranking, you are baking in 0 risk or 0 of the risk that is going in and just looking at the best case scenario, which could happen, but I don't see it. And at number 1, Puka Nacua, 14th overall, wide receiver 8. So kind of the same area here as Marvin Harrison. He did it last year and was great. But I do think you look at like either Cooper Kupp could be healthier this year and take a little bit more of that. I think there's a very real risk that Matthew Stafford just isn't as good and will start to fall off a little bit here at some point. And I don't, like I said before in the overvalued teams, I don't think the Rams are going to be all that good this year. And so while Puka Nacua could be the truth and might be that talented, I just think, I don't know if he is good enough yet to make up for kind of the world around him crumbling, as I kind of expected to do with the LA Rams this year. So that is why I have him as my most overvalued player in fantasy football this season.